All right, so there we go. All right, so we're talking this month about DISC and communication. So personality and how you communicate, how you like to receive information, how your clients like to receive information as well. And so everybody has a personality type and has a preferred mode to give and receive information. There's no wrong personality type, right? It just takes all sorts of different people to get the job done. But it's important, I think, for us to understand where other people are so we can communicate to them in a way that they like to be communicated to. So interesting story. When I was the first company I worked with as a loan originator, I was working with a guy named Ivan who speaks Spanish, and I'd have no idea why it was that I was trying to talk to this client who spoke Spanish and not him. But that's how it worked or whatever. And eventually came over to me. He's like, they speak Spanish. They're not deaf, because my Spanish was English, just really, really loud, And he's like, they can hear what you're saying. They just can't understand what you're saying. And, just like we all have, a native language that we speak and communicate in words, we also have a native language that we speak personality wise, and everybody else does as well. So when we're talking about this native language, we're looking at things like, how are you motivated? What excites you? How do you prefer to receive information? Do you like just the highlights in a list, or do you like long explanations, which is probably kind of why, if you look at a listing report in the MLS, you're going to have a paragraph talking about how great the property is. And then you're also going to have all those different bullet points. So however that person's personality is, they're going to be gravitated to either the paragraph explanation, or, hey, I just want to know how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what the taxes are, how many square feet, and where it's located, and then I move on. Because we're motivated different ways, because we like to receive information different ways, we need to think about how we communicate with our clients, right? Because our tendency is, just like me talking with this Spanish-speaking individual and just speaking in English and yelling, we tend to communicate to other people the way that we like to receive communication. And so that's why we want to talk about this. So hopefully we can adjust ourselves a little bit so we're communicating on the same natural language as someone else. I mean, because if I would love to be able to speak Spanish, because I think that it would be tremendously valuable to be able to communicate with people in a language that, is their native tongue and what they like. And it shows that, that you're concerned about them and that you have their best interests at heart. So defining DISC. DISC is the universal language of how you do what you do. Okay, so again, it's not like a personality disorder. You're not a good person if you are a high S, or a bad person if you're a high D. It's just, there's different ways that we naturally do what we do. And we have a natural style, and then we also have an adaptive style. So our natural style is, all things being equal, what we would prefer to do. And then the adaptive style is how we do what we do based on, the job that we do. And those jobs that we are going to be fulfilled in are going to be ones that match our natural style, because we feel like, oh, it's not really even work because I'm just doing what I like to do. So does anybody here know what their DISC profile is? All right, yes. So we DISC test our employees. I will be able to give you some free information at the end. The company that we use to get a DISC test for our employees and for ourselves, it has a free website you can go to get some information, and it's definitely worth doing the assessment, because it'll give you insight about yourself, as well as insight about, if you're running a team, it'll give you insight on your other team members and maybe where they, the roles that they ought to play and the roles that they should not play. Okay. Yeah, it is eye-opening a lot of times. Cool. So DISC is a percentage of population. And so DISC stands for, D's are the drivers. So those are like, the really motivated CEO type people. I is the influencers. So they're kind of the life of the party. S are stable. They just like things the way that they are. And C is conforming, controlling. So they like, there's a right and a wrong, like super strong on that. And so if you look at the percentage of the population, obviously S is going to be your biggest group, because there's just kind of the easygoing, laid back people that, they don't, they're not super high, they're not super low, and they just, the backbone of America, probably, they get things done, they show up and all that stuff. The I's, 25 to 30% of the population, they're the people that, they want to go to parties, they want to go to events, they want to have people over. They just, they kind of get charged being around folks. Those D's are the drivers. Those are the ones that kind of get things done, set that vision, and really push to get things accomplished. And then, C are, very, structured, and, those are like our, like a processor or a transaction coordinator. Those are the people that you want in that situation, because they're not going to miss the documents. Whereas, like, if you go look at my desk, you'll wonder why I even find any documents at all, because just all over. But like, those are the people that everything has to be in their place. Their garage is neat, their closet is neat, and all of those things. And maybe their drawers are labeled, for what goes where. Not making fun of them. But so a good reason to take a DISC test, and you can get some that are free and you can get some that are not. And the more I'm not saying go crazy with paying for them, but if you do pay a little bit, you get more insight. And it's really important to know, your basic personality type, because people are going to, they're gonna feel you in a sense before they actually talk with you. Just because, and you're not even aware of it. But it's just the way that you carry yourself based on what motivates you. So that D person can actually make people feel afraid or intimidated, because they're just they don't really intend to be, but because they're so driven and focused, you're like, oh, I feel like I'm being called to the principal's office, when this person reaches out to me. It's like, like if the boss says, hey, I want you to come in my office for a minute, you're like, oh, what did I do wrong? Kind of a thing. Those I's are optimistic. They're kind of like the life of the party. You've met a long lost friend. S's are calm and relaxed. You feel very comfortable around these people. You might not get as much done, but you're having a good time. And C can tend to make people feel like they're being judged if they're not perfect. They'll meet your standards or whatever. So it's understanding, your basic personality type, your basic motivator, and trying to compensate a little bit for that when you're trying to deal with people. Okay. And the thing of it is, nobody is exactly, 100% one personality style. Okay. So you usually have a main one and a secondary one, and then the other ones are kind of, smaller. So, you may need to pivot, if you're high D and high I, there are times you're going to need to pivot from the D to be the I, so that you make people feel comfortable and welcomed, and not like you're just rolling over people. But there's also times when, hey, things need to get done, kind of thing. So you need to understand where we're coming from, and then how to help other people. I think start with ourselves, kind of like on the airplane. If the oxygen masks do drop, you are allowed to remove your mask. And then, you put the oxygen mask on yourself before somebody else. So we need to understand ourselves first, and then, we can understand others. So we want to, there's some, you can get very detailed tests on recognizing DISC, but, you're not going to spend $150 on every client to figure out their personality type. So there's kind of a cheat sheet, right? So you ask yourself 2 questions. And based on, your perception of them on the answer to these 2 questions, you can pretty much put them in this category. Okay, and again, nobody's right, nobody's wrong. It's just, it helps you. So do they talk slow or do they talk fast? Has anybody seen the movie Zootopia? Sloth. Remember that? Remember that? You know, and the rabbit, you know, the rabbit's very high D. You know, she's, you know, I need this plate now. I need it right now. And the sloth is, you know, and just, you know, even like the way that the sloth talks is super slow. Okay, so do they talk fast or do they talk slow? Do they come across friendly or not? You know, and again, it's not like, you know, one person is friendly and one person is just a total jerk. It's like, do they seem kind of aloof or maybe not interested in you, or preoccupied, right? So those D's, you know, talk fast and they're not really people friendly. Okay, that can that's a danger, right? Because you can get very task oriented and very motivated, and you're just, you know, we're going. That I is a fast talker, but they're also people friendly. Okay, so you know, kind of looking at, you know, do they seem to like people, you know, or are people just I don't know. I thought about this, but we were at a airport and getting a car, and this guy had a T-shirt on that said, "I hate people." I'm like, oh, that's very interesting. So he would definitely be either a high D or a C. And actually, I think him and whoever he was with, they both seem to be like ex-military. So military is, you know, very much C, right? Because there you do things, you know, a way. You know, there's no variation on how you're making your bunk and how you're wearing your uniform and how you're doing this and how you're doing that. Okay, so it could also have been, you know, D maybe, but you know, so if they're fast talking, if they seem to like people, more than likely they're going to be an I. If they're that, you know, slow talker, but they're friendly with people, they're that stable person, which again is the majority of people out there. And then the slow talker that are not really into people, just kind of aloof. Those are your C's. You know, those are people that make good underwriters. They make good processors, transaction coordinators, those kinds of things, because you don't want to get to closing and realize that, you know, something that was supposed to have been taken care of in the contract didn't get taken care of, right? So you need those people that are checking off all the boxes and making sure everything is there. So you might be saying, well, gee, why would I even care about recognizing this? Well, we want people to like us and trust us, because at the end of the day, more than the real estate company that we're with, or how much, you know, we've done in volume, or our rates and fees and all of those kinds of things and commissions, people do business with the people they do business with because they like you and trust you at the end of the day. You know, so we want people to like us and trust us. And so when we're recognizing people's personality and recognizing our personality, you know, we're able to do something called matching and mirroring. Okay, and I want to be very careful, because, you know, this can be manipulative if you're not really, you know, if you really try to be manipulative. I think that you could with something like this. The reason why we want to do this is we really want to help people, right? You all are in real estate because you really believe that owning real estate is a really good idea for most everybody. I mean, there are some people that, you know, maybe right now it's not a good time to have a house. If you're, you know, in the military and you get moved every 18 months or something, you know, maybe it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. Or, you know, if your credit score is you know, 450 or something, it's probably not going to make a whole lot of sense right now. But for the most part, you know, everybody, you know, we feel like everybody should have the opportunity to have a house, you know, and be able to create wealth through that. So, you know, we're wanting to help folks and help them make good decisions by being able to communicate to them in the way they want to hear, right? So matching and mirroring. So if you recognize where someone is, if you're naturally like the fast talker, that, you know, you are talking with a client that is very slow talking and very methodical, you know, if you don't take a step back and kind of slow down, you might be seen as that they don't really care about me. They're just wanting to talk. They're just wanting to do this and do that. And so you can, you can keep them from making good decisions based on just the way that you're dealing with them. And then also we want to be real, ask questions of our clients, and then listen to what they have to say and really tailor what we're doing, based on them. So the language of D. So if you come across someone that, doesn't really seem to like people, but is very, very fast talking and usually very opinionated and knows exactly what they're wanting to do, they're D, and they're looking for results. The big thing for the D is, getting things done, right? So they're going to be faster paced. They're going to be direct. They can come across as they can be impatient. I have quite a bit of D, and if I'm behind somebody who's driving under the speed limit, it just drives me crazy. And it's like it's just a silly thing, but it's like I can be very impatient in certain times. They want to be very efficient. They're very fact oriented. So if you know someone that is that way, then you want to give them fewer options. Okay, so a good option close is something like, you can do A or you can do B. What do you like? Right? So, a D is not going to want to see 50 properties that fit their criteria. One, you probably can't find 50 properties that fit somebody's criteria in our market today, unfortunately. But they're looking for results, right? So a lot of times with all of these people, you want to ask as many questions as you can to get like, what are the top things, and so give them fewer options, use that option close, a list of bullet points that'll make your case. All right, so property A has ... property B has ... which is more important to you? What do you like? And then talk about how fast you get this done. Hey, if you make your offer right now, and we get it accepted by this, we can work with your lender and we get it done in 21 days. What do you think? Cool. It's also good if you know that your seller is if you're doing a listing and the seller is this type of person, you can frame your contract and your offer in a way that will help them get what they want, which is speed. Don't overwhelm them with a whole bunch of different things. Hey, here's the price, here's what we're asking for, and here's how quickly we can get a contingencies, here's how quickly we can close. So that's working with a D. The language of I, they're looking for interaction, right? Because they're people, right? So they're going to go crazy if they're not around other people. So again, they're faster paced, but they're people oriented. They're indirect, disorganized. They talk better than they listen. They smile a lot and they talk with their hands. Okay, so probably people that are in sales, you're going to be either the highest D and then a little bit lower I, or a high I, lower D. Okay, is probably where most of us are. We're kind of the smaller part of the population out there, but a huge part of a population for something like this, right? So when you're working with someone who is an I, you want to highlight the features on the house that promote hospitality, or about having a house that, hey, if you had your own house, you could have people over anytime that you want. You're not having to answer to neighbors, that in your apartment complex, or managers or those kinds of things telling you what you can or cannot do. Smile a lot to them, right? Unless you have a condo, and then you're still all that, and fewer options, an option close as well. Hey, both of these houses, I think will accomplish what you would like. This one has these features, this one has these features, which one do you like? And then you can also use like an assumption close. I use assumption close a lot with everybody. You just assume, hey, you answered my phone call. I'm assuming that you're wanting to do business with me, and so So we kind of run on the assumption that they're going to, so hey, here's the list price, here's our offer price, here's what, you're putting down for earnest money, here's the closing date, everything will look good, sign here. That's the assumption close, right? So you just kind of assume that they're going to buy. The language of S, okay? So that S person is looking for stability. So they're slower paced, again, people oriented. They're going to be hard to read sometimes, okay? They may gesture with their hands, can be very possessive of things. They might be the people that want a lot of your time, which depending on your personality type may be hard. So when you're working with an S, you want to, because they're looking for stability, you want to get as much information as you can up front. The market right now is a killer for this person, right? Because those are the people that are like, well, we'd really like to have a little bit of time to think about it before we make an offer. And the one thing that people have no time right now is, nothing right now is the time to think about an offer. It's like, so you got to get as much information up front. And then when you're there, you need to get them past the sale. Okay, if you know that this is absolutely the right place for them, you want to help them get past the sale. So kind of like, we bought a car, the only new car that we ever bought. We were in Mississippi, and we were trying to decide if we're going to buy it or not. And the salesperson was like, tell you what, we ran your credit, everything looks good. Why don't you just take it home for a couple days? No obligation. If you don't want it, just go ahead and bring it back. They probably do that all the time. You want to know how many people actually bring back that car and don't get it? Nobody. Nobody. And we had that car until got into a wreck and it went away. But and so that's like the puppy dog close. If you smell the puppy dog and you smell the puppy dog breath and you hold the puppy dog, there's no way that you're leaving that store without the puppy dog, right? And so for those people that are very methodically, they need to think about it. You need to help them see themselves in the house. Okay, so you're telling me that you really love Christmas. Where do you think you would put the Christmas tree? Oh, take a look at the backyard. Where would you put the swing set for the kids? Okay, and you're getting them to see, and it's really crazy because like literally they'll start smiling out the window where the swing set is going to be, or where the pool is going to be, or they're looking longingly at where the Christmas tree is going to be. But you're helping them get past the sale so that, because once you get to that point, then the house is theirs and they're going to do what they need to do to get it. Okay. So, and again, you want to be careful. You don't want to get people into something that isn't them. But if and because you've talked with them a lot, you've gotten a lot of information, you may have, especially these people, you may have shown them quite a few properties. And you probably heard the ones that they were sad about that they didn't get, or that they should have offered on that they didn't offer on, and put all those things together and help them be successful moving on. And then the language of C, they're looking for facts, right? So they're slower paced, they're task oriented, they're direct, they can be kind of critical. So those would be the people that there's always something wrong with the house that they're looking at. Very reserved, they ask detailed questions. Again, this can be people that are very hard to get into houses in this market, because again, you don't have a whole lot of time to get a whole lot of answers and things back, because in the time it took you to formulate your question and ask it, there's been 3 offers that came in. Okay, so what you want to do with these folks is, again, get clarity up front, give them fewer options, but vet them really well. Okay, try to especially if you're talking with them over the course of time, you're probably going to know a lot of the questions they're going to be asking anyway. Try to get them as much of those answers up front, and give them detailed information about the listing. So another good way, again, to find out where someone's coming from is give them the listing report and try to see where their eyes go. Do their eyes go to the paragraph talking about the property, or their eyes go, or maybe they might even be like, okay, and exactly, that person is probably more on the DI side, as opposed to the SC. All right, so more than happy to send you the PowerPoint for this, but Manesh is the guy that we use to do our personality tests for ourselves and for our team. He has written several books on this, and really, got into doing this because he got into a job that he absolutely hated, and realized later it was because it was totally opposite of his own personality style. All right, so he wrote a book saying it's entitled "Stop Hiring Losers." And it's not that he's like, not that people are losers, but what it is, he's like, if I was playing basketball against LeBron James, I would lose every time because, I'm not in the same league. And so you want to be hiring people that, for the position that their personality meshes. So if you go to disc1234.com, you can give them a little bit of information and you can download, a bunch of resources, and then again, any questions that you have that I could answer as well, we would love to help you with that. So cool. Any questions or thoughts? Yes.
So I will say about like the different personality types and all stuff, but I'm talking to clients, if they're a C, my chances are probably not as high as the other three personalities. So I'm a high D and then a secondary I. So the Ds are really good because you just give them their gut decision, right? So I'll ask my Ds and Cs, they're thinking about their options. What does your gut tell you, right? Because I'm trying to get them out of their head. Cs are very analytical and they're trying to like analyze every single thing. So they're the ones that will rate shop you, or they'll shop you on your commission percentage and stuff like that because they see all these advertisements other places. Whereas with my I's and my S's, I'm asking them, hey, how do you feel? Because I want to get them to their heart or to their gut. I don't keep them out of their head. So that's my little bit on.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, and talking about the C, I feel like the guy I just met with yesterday, he didn't know it, like that's exactly what he is. But that's like really boring, I feel to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and probably with all of us, we're going to struggle probably the most with that C person because, the fact that we're in sales, the fact that we're, in the real estate industry, and it's very fast paced, very people oriented. I mean, if you don't like people and you move slow, you're just dead. I mean, even in a normal market, you're dead, but in this market, it's like you're way gone, right? So yeah, so and again, those are probably the people that we're gonna have the hardest part dealing with. But to be able to recognize what you're dealing with, like Jonathan was saying, can actually help you maybe yeah, my chances of probably working with you and not one of us killing the other is probably small. But let me see if I can pivot a little bit so that we can make this work for you for sure. So yeah.
What they're not asking about.
Right.
Like if they ask you a specific question, don't veer off into something else that you think they might like. Just tell them what they're asking.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like I have a client right now that's a C, and we just locked in her interest rate, and we're looking at two different options, either higher rate with credits or a lower rate with no credits. And she then asked me, hey, over the last 15 days, where are rates at for each day? I'm like, okay, no. Like, no. Here's the chart, look at the chart, and then here's the question you have. We're not going back to this. Like, no.
Yeah, right.
One of those rates aren't going anymore. Two, no, just stop.
Well, it's like, yeah, and that's the whole thing. It's like, who has time, right? And that could also be, paralysis by analysis kind of thing, that you're just, you're never going to get anywhere until you get kind of that root level of, and then, why are you wanting to, what is important to you? I mean, one of the things that we're asking all of our clients in our pre-approval consultation is, what's the most important thing to you about buying a home, right? I don't want to hear 3-bedroom, 2-bath. What I want to hear is, I have kids that they want to be in this, that I want them in this school district. We have a dog, I want a yard. We have, I want to grow wealth. I want to whatever, because, we need to know what that motivation is, for several reasons, but one of them is so that we can, understand where they're coming from. But the second part of it is, that the other thing that we say is, this is like a really crazy market. I've been in the business 12 years. I know people that have been doing this for 30 years. They've never seen a market like this. So what's going to happen is, you're going to make a really good offer. You're going to go over asking price, and you're going to, waive some contingencies. You're going to do all these crazy things, and you're still not going to get it. Okay. And it's not your fault. It's not your realtor's fault. It's just the market. But when that happens, you need to think again about, you want your kids in the school district. You want to build wealth. You want to have a place for your dog to run around. All of these, all of those reasons that you have for buying a house are still there, even if you get disappointed. And what we find is that, eventually it works out that you get the place that you really needed to get. So, so trying to get, as much information as you can, understanding where they're coming from, understand their motivation, what things are super important for them to do this, so you can kind of keep going back. Hey, unfortunately, we didn't get the offer accepted. However, there are new houses, there are houses coming on the market every day. It's very competitive, like, but let's adjust our strategy and make sure we accomplish your goal the next time around.
I was able to think about that too, but I know you guys are probably thinking I fire all my clients with all these stories in the last couple of days, which I don't, but this is like the ones that are repeat stories. So when you're finding out about people's motivations, you can also realize, is that client going to be someone that I can actually help them out, right? So I talked to last year, she missed 2 credit card payments in June, and this is back when they were like in the 2%. And so trying to go, the product she's looking at was going to be a higher interest rate because of the credit score. So you have the 2 payments. So I was asking her, hey, what's the most important thing to you? What can I do to really help you out and make sure you get this deal closed out? And all that she wanted was a rate in the 2% without any discount points. And so I was like, well, if that's the only way you'll ever buy a house, then I'm not the person who can't work together right now, because that's just not in the cards for you. And so if someone says, I'll only list my house if I get 250 and it's worth 235, in this market, you might go get 250. But, if it's like worth 165, no one wants 250 and nothing, about a dime less, then that's, not somebody that obviously going to be spending a lot of time on. So getting to that final decision is super important for personalities too.
Yeah. Cool. Other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you again for being here. Hang out as long as you want. I would ask if you would fill out our survey form. Very important to get feedback on what you liked, what you didn't like, things that we can do to improve, so we can always be getting better.